We're considering K-Town Park. I just have to congratulate
Good morning.
Thank you, Miss Mary. Good morning.
Once again, good morning.
Morning.
I'm Laura McClary, one of the facilitators for Sarah Season's Tuesday Forum, along with Mary Johnson, Winston Robinson, Natalie McGarrett, Jackie Walton Edwards, who's not with us this morning. She won't be here this morning. Steve Johnson, Thomas Moore, Carlina Ivory, Natalie, and Sarita Sherry. Anyway, we'd like to welcome you all to the Sarah Season Tuesday Forum. And do we have anyone that's here for the first time? Okay, and we will have you introduce yourselves, but we'd like to get started with the word of prayer from Sarita Sherry. So we will lead us in a word of prayer.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let's bow our heads in prayer, please. God, we're thankful this morning for all the beauty that surrounds us, for the weather advisory, for the rain, for the sunshine, for the children. We're so thankful because we know that you don't make mistakes. Bless our nation this morning. Bless our city, our county, our neighborhoods, and remember our children every place. God, remember our children everywhere and all the time. Remember our nation, these United States. I don't want to criticize. That's not my intention. But God, help us make decisions during the election to choose people who come into our community to help. We know we need help. And it's in your Son Jesus' name I pray these things this morning. Let us say together, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rita. Our visitors, for the first time, if you would just share with us your name and your affiliation.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Faye Marshall, and I'm here in support of Charlene Henderson.
Morning, Bob Sitwitz from First Ward. I'm active in that neighborhood, and I'm here supporting James Bishop.
Thank you. And for those that are here for the first time, the way we facilitate the forum is that we have our presenters, that, of course, we have the city council members at large this morning who will introduce themselves. James Mitchell is on his way. He had emergency to come up this morning, or he had something else going on this morning, but he will be joining us later on. And I'm sorry. Okay. But I'd just like to share with you all, particularly those that are here for the first time, the way we facilitate the Tuesday Forum. We allow them to do a presentation. And once they do a presentation, we do have questions, and we recognize you by a show of hands. The ones, whoever raised their hand first, Tommy Robinson usually get the first question. He's a regular, he has privileges, but he usually raises his hand, he let us know that early on. But we raise your hand, and just to make you aware of it, for our newbies as well, this is a live stream as well as Facebook Live. So you are being videotaped, and if you want to go back and recap anything or clarify anything that was said, you can always go back to our website, Sarah Season's Tuesday Forum. And we would ask you to ask a question. We do not do debates here at Tuesday Forum, but if you ask a question, we want you to ask one question at a time, And once you ask that question aloud, and direct it to who you would like to answer that question. If you like for all of the candidates to answer, say that. Or if not, just make sure that you direct it to that person that you want to answer that question. So we like to keep it orderly. We like to make sure that we are very respectful. And once again, people do come and they leave respectfully. So don't let that bother you. We start off sometimes with 2 or 3 people, and we don't know how many people are going to come because the information is sent out to many people in the community. So without any further ado, what I'd like to do is start with Ms. Charlene to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to come back around. Give you 2 minutes to do that. We're going to come back around, and you can talk to us a little bit about your platform. And yes, Natalie McGarrett is our timekeeper, and she will raise it. Please respect her. And your time is up. So, without any further ado, and Colleen Ivy, who is one of our facilitators, is just coming in as well. So,
comments on Facebook, a few questions.
oh, yes. If you have comments or questions from Facebook or live, you can text us. What's your number?
Comment on Facebook.
Actually, yes, if you will, to our online viewers, if you leave a comment as a question, or as a question as a comment on Facebook, or even YouTube, I will be able to find that question and read it out to our candidates. I'm not giving you my number.
Thank you. So, without any further ado, I turn it over to you, Charlotte.
Good morning to this morning forum. I am not a stranger, but for those who do know me or do not know me, my name is Charlene Henderson, and I am running for City Council at large. By far, we as a community need to have representation that hold people accountable. So me being a small business owner, a single mom, a native of Charlotte, I've seen things build up and I've seen it tear down. My goal is to make sure that we have community at the table, and that is what it's all about. I think that if we can have a seat, we can bring a different perspective, and that is my goal, is to bring that different perspective. And I tell everyone, I'm a teacher by trade, so this is what I've done for the community. I've went out, we've knocked on doors, canvassed, we've talked. I even drove Uber. You know why? Because it's an opportunity to talk to different individuals all over this city. And so my goal is to make sure that you understand and see this is what the community, this is what our city look for, this is what they desire, and this is just a piece of the puzzle. Accountability, integrity, your character, morals, ethics. So with that being said, my goal is to make sure that is being represented fully. And I want to work with the city, I do, and that is my goal, is to work with the city, but make sure that we have these things at the forefront. Just give you measurables, and that's what we're not doing, is holding people accountable, making sure we have measurables. Thank you. My name is Charlene Henderson, and I am running for City Council at large, and I do need your support. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. I'm Luana Slight Mayfield. I currently serve you on Charlotte City Council, representing one of the 4 at-large seats. I previously served for 8 years as the District 3 representative, where I had an opportunity to do a lot of on-the-ground work in the community. A lot of you know, some of you may not. Prior to ever running for office, I volunteered in our community for more than 20 years. So I'm not a Charlotte native. I claim I'm native adjacent since I moved here in 1988. So I grew up, I came here as an 18-year-old. I grew up in Charlotte. I've seen a lot of the changes, a lot of the development in our city. When I first ran for office, it was for a very specific reason. And the reality is, fast forward a number of years, those reasons are still there. When we look at accessibility, when we look at accountability, when we look at transparency, a lot of the work that I was able to do previously was done in collaboration. It takes 6 votes. There are 11 council members. One individual cannot move the needle very far. We can move the needle. That mainly comes from collaboration with our council, identifying those others that see the opportunities when we look at the Charlotte Premium Outlets, when we look at the job fairs that I created at the airport, when we look at development that has happened along West Boulevard, Freedom Drive, Wilkinson during the time that I was the representative. The challenge is when we first started talking about opportunity zones and corridors of opportunity, many of you may remember I had a lot of questions of what that looked like. I still have those questions. We've seen a lot of displacement that has happened. Why I am currently still here in these 10 months and looking to go forward is because I have a lot more work to do, and I look forward to your questions. LaWanna Slight Mayfield, Charlotte City Council at large, I'm asking for you to support me to maintain this seat.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Dr. Victoria Watlington. I'm your current Charlotte City Council member representing District 3, and I am running for one of the 4 at-large seats. When I first ran for council back in 2019, I ran for one reason: my neighbors. Prior to serving on city council, I served in several roles, including a board member of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Coalition, where I had the pleasure of leading the West Boulevard playbook from the community side. And when I knew that my predecessor was going to be moving forward to serve in a greater capacity, we knew that we wanted to be able to implement what was in the playbook. And that means money, that means policy, that means support at the structural and the systemic level. And that is why I ran for council. I ran on 4 key principles, which remain, which are community-led planning, affordable housing, transportation, and economic mobility. That is what we are looking at in Charlotte today, and what we continue to be faced with as we continue to grow. We are no longer a city just within its limits. We are a region, and we've got to approach our policy that way. Some of the things that I've been very happy to have been able to contribute to while I'm on council are, number 1, Safe Charlotte. I was able to write the framework for what became our Safe Charlotte plan as a result of our social justice push in 2020. That is one of the things that I'm extremely proud about, because we did not do it alone. It incorporated members of the community from all walks of life. It really looked at not only how do we redefine policing, but going forward, how do we begin to influence our violent measures in the community from a community-led violence interruption type policy. And so I was extremely proud of that, as well as being a champion of the corridors of opportunity. And we see all over the city how we are making great strides on the public side and also with the private sector in regards to economic mobility within our corridors. And if you have not already weighed in on some of the things that are going on with our RFPs and our Western Remount intersection, we absolutely invite you to do so. But once again, I'm Victoria Watlington, and I am running at large because I believe we've got to take a broader regional approach to policy. And as a policy scholar, I believe that I can bring that, along with my engineering and operations experience, to problem solving and to development of our community as we go forward. I would love your support and your vote. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ben Copeland. It's good to see some familiar faces in the crowd, and hopefully today I'm a little less nervous than my first time talking. But the more I do this, the more comfortable I get. So I'm happy to be here this morning talking to you all. A little bit about myself, because unlike some of the other candidates here, not as many of you may know me. I'm a UNC Charlotte student. I've lived in Charlotte my entire memorable life. I graduated from CMS. And there's a wide variety of reasons why I'm running, hopefully a lot of which we get to talk about today. And that's why you all came to ask questions. So I hope today that we can get into specifics and we can really talk about the detailed plans and ideas that I want to present and put forward that hopefully will support the entire community. So I'm going to turn my time over to all of you to ask us questions. So hopefully we can get to the bottom of some of the issues. So thank you all very much. Ben Copeland. Thanks.
Okay, our first question comes from Tommy Robinson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm 76 years old, and it's bothering me to find there's no more black communities in Charlotte. There's no more black communities in Charlotte. When I was young, it used to be first ward, second ward, third ward, fourth ward. There's no more black communities in Charlotte. My question is, what's happening to the black people in Charlotte? I don't have any idea where they are. Black Brookfield and all the communities are closed.
So is that an actual question?
Yeah, the question is, what happened to the black communities in Charlotte? That's the question.
So I'm gonna go ahead and take a dip into this, which you already know. So we can go back to what? The Green New Deal was the 70s. So we know 67 before me. So we are having conversations now about what used to be Brooklyn. We keep having conversations about what used to be Dalton Village. The challenge is Brook Hill. The biggest challenge is the reality is you the electorate. Y'all vote us in. Y'all vote in people who have not served in the community prior to getting in office. You re-elect people who served in office and voted against some of the needs of the community. So I started initially talking about our corridors of opportunity. That was a cute idea, but when we look at that crescent and that wedge, I had questions years ago about what language are we putting in place for the community that currently lives there to stay there and benefit. When you go through historic Camp Green, which used to be Regal Heights, we used to have Westwood Apartments. When I first purchased my home over there in 2001, and you look, there's very few of us that are there. So there's a second round of beyond grants that are out, that are targeted to those same corridors. But those corridors are now filled with wealth.
Yes.
I'm not saying black wealth or white wealth, because we have black people in our community that have wealth. But it is wealth that the money follows, not the community. So when the community gets moved, the other part is we rent. We will rent for 20 years. We will pay off someone else's mortgage in renting versus owning. Now, I can say for the 8 years that I was out the first time, I had a quarterly town hall for a year all around the district talking to our community about owning. I created the TLC by CLT housing rehab program. We created opportunities. A lot of us didn't take advantage of it. So now when someone comes in and offers $150,000, some of us think that's a lot of money, not realizing how much that next house is going to be. So that home gets sold, and now you're renting or you're couch surfing, to be perfectly honest. So part of it is we historically, as a community, and we know all the legislative pieces that go behind it, redlining, the way banks finance, we know that. But the biggest piece is we don't own, we don't get to control the discussion. And when grandma, auntie, uncle leaves us the house and we sell that home versus fixing up that home, we've given up our power. So when we say what happened to black communities, to be perfectly honest, we happened to it.
Okay, thank you very much. And you want everybody to answer that question, Tommy, or just those that?
I don't care who that is.
Okay.
Well, I gave a very long answer, so I apologize.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, and if you give us two to 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll be very brief.
Okay.
A lot of what Councilmember Mayfield has said is absolutely true. When you look at historically, way back I'll go even back to the 1930s, where you talk about how black people were systemically eliminated from housing policy. When you talk about how labor unions excluded black people from joining, when you bring it all the way through GI bills in the end of World War II, and who was enabled to purchase land and who was not. When you talk about when Nixon came into power and we went on this war on drugs, and we look at urban renewal, we look at how investments from the federal level impacted and were implemented, particularly in the southern states. They were on purpose targeting black neighborhoods and black wealth. And so when you think about how that has gone through, even how we distribute federal funds at this point, where before there were specific things that you could use dollars for, and we moved into these block grants and this consolidation through the Reagan era and even into the Clinton era. And now you've got a lot more dollars that aren't specifically tied to organizations, so you lose that advocacy that you would otherwise have. Because if I'm in the bucket with 100 other organizations who can get similar dollars, I may not push as hard to go get that money. And so you see a loss of support there. Absolutely, at the end of the day, when you see Black neighborhoods turn, somebody is selling, exactly as she said. So that is a choice. And we certainly want to help people be able to achieve equity and experience that economic mobility for their family, but we've got to do it thoughtfully. We've got to do it in a way where we think about what happens next. Where am I going to go? How does this change the neighborhood? What powers will I have as a renter in another place? But at the local level, though much of economic mobility dollars come from federal legislation and to some extent the state, we've got to think about how we incentivize businesses to come, how we incentivize zoning. What are we negotiating in rezoning petitions? What are we talking about when we're thinking about giving money to certain businesses in certain places? That has to be done on the front end. That's why one of the things that I've been working with the city attorney on is how, instead of just council raising their hand to earmark money and we never see the contract again, we need to be able to not only earmark the money, but have an additional step where we're looking very specifically at what's in this contract. What does that mean for workforce development? What does that mean for MWSBE? What does that mean for economic mobility at the local level, regardless of where the source of the dollars come from?
Did you want to address that?
I just want to say simply, we're being priced out. We're being pushed on the outside of this region. And what I hear throughout this forum is that, again, we need to have accountability. These are simple things. We look for the smallest solutions to these big impacts. We just need a small opportunity. And working with the city, I think we do have an opportunity to really look at some key things and make sure that our communities are being at the table when these decisions are being made for us, without us. So that is my goal, is to make sure that I follow through and make sure that these individuals that are on the council, whoever get on the council, follow through. That's the main thing, just following up and following through.
Okay. You good? Okay. Winston has a
Ben, you want to say something?
Ben wants to jump in. Yeah.
Okay.
Then you gotta grab that mic.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to quickly add on one last thing, which everything they said is completely true. And I think it's a result of decades of policymakers from the 50s and 60s that implemented all these rules, and it had a really bad effect on communities of color, especially. But what are we going to do to try and fix that and solve that? And my idea for that, I'm just curious to know how many people in here have heard of something called a community land trust before. Yeah. They're a tool, that came out of the civil rights era. And we currently have one in Charlotte, the Westside Community Land Trust, but it's a pretty small organization. To my knowledge, it doesn't receive any public funds. My idea that I'm running on is we need to implement a government-funded and government-run community land trust, so that way we can create perpetual affordable housing for low-income communities, and that will help develop generational wealth for folks. So that's one thing I think that we need to take a look at doing as a city council.
Okay,
Good morning. So I'm from the West Side. I know all about how it feels to live in a community that has been historically deprived, under-resourced, under everything. So when I ask this question, I'm asking to the city council members about the Eastern Project. So we have, I'm just going to list, we have the AMP at Valentine, which hasn't even opened yet, PNC Pavilion, Skylar Credit Union Amphitheater, the amphitheater at the National Whitewater Center, the shed at NODA, Symphony Park Charlotte at South Park, unnamed multi-use outdoor entertainment facility coming to the River District, Memorial Stadium, Bank of America Stadium, Urban Park Pavilion, Urban Belt Complex at JCSU, Richardson Stadium at UNCC. All able to house the same type of feeling concerts. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I would like all communities and neighborhoods to have their own amenities. However, I need to know, what is the allure in adding another 5,000-seat amphitheater to the city?
Now, just for clarification, you only want those two to
The city council member.
Okay, and we give you 2 minutes apiece.
Thank you.
Okay, Nathan,
Mine won't take long. First of all, I love that somebody went and did their homework. You're absolutely right that we have plenty of facilities all over the city. I can tell you what's important for me as we look at Eastland options. I don't necessarily see an allure of another venue like you just mentioned. What intrigues me are two things in particular, well, three things I'll say. Number one, for our public investment, community involvement, and community benefit. And then the third thing that is important to me is when we look at how we continue to own and operate in exchange for our investment, this particular venue, those are the things that are important to me. There are a number of things that intrigue me about one of the options that include community membership on their board ongoing, that include meeting specific desires that the community started out with, that creates a variety of different types of uses that's focused on amateur sports. And also because what we've since learned since this all began is that right now, at least from the information that's been presented to council, both projects are similar in their ask and in their level of professional support and development on their boards and in their development teams. So I absolutely think that we've got an opportunity to do something different in the way of investing in a very substantive and intentional way that enables the community to stay at the forefront of decision making.
Thank you for that question. So, one, I agree. We have a number of venues throughout the city. And whether we're paying attention or not, we're resegregating the city because most people don't live outside of their neighborhood. So we have this idea of this 10-minute neighborhoods. That's a cute idea. For me, I feel like we're not listening to the community. So we had more than 260 residents that signed on a petition that live in the neighborhood. The city, through council's guidance, staff created a survey. Out of that survey, 45% lived in that district. Didn't even hit all 7 zip codes, only hit about 5 of them. So I asked the question of where did these other 55% of participants come from? Never got an answer. I'm concerned that we are quickly moving to a space, and we have been the last 3 years, of not letting the community engage on what they want. Keep in mind, a lot of investment has gone out of Eastland, so we're not going to discount that. We're talking about that last 29 acres. But what is a project that's going to reflect the community, of which the East Side is truly one of our diverse areas? I'm going to say District 3 is a close second when you look at the diversity of the district, still with the current lines and with the previous lines, definitely. But when you have a segment of our community and you have another part of town that has decided that they want access to this, I have a challenge with that. So we have 2 very strong proposals ahead of us. I am in support of more transparency, and I do not like the feeling of being led by staff. Staff gives a recommendation. It's council's responsibility to vote yea or nay, but I want transparency in the process, and I don't feel that we're receiving that in how this whole conversation is going.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
And Luana, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
My question is for each of you, because you are running at large, and as Luana has pointed out many times before, she represented the district, and now she represents everybody. Of the 7 council districts, I think it's 7.
It is.
Of the council districts, you as at-large representatives will have to work with to get votes from those other 7 members. But my question is more of the 7 districts, and I just want a number really, which do you feel need, deserve, warrant, and you are committed to as the most depressed and needing districts of those 7?
Turn it on.
Yeah.
Me growing up on the west side, District 2. I can say District 2 because growing up, it was where my people that I lived with had opportunities in manufacturing and textile work. They were able to make a living and really thrive. So growing up and moving away and then coming back, I see the corridor of opportunity down through Batesville Road coming, but it is mostly deprived because of the drugs, the crime, the violence, and those are some of the things that I really want to help tackle. I want to be able to support any opportunity to make it better. So District 2 is one of my most concerned areas.
The entire city, to be perfectly honest, as an at-large member. No, there is no pick one district. That's part of the challenge that we're in right now. District 3 today is not the District 3 that I first ran and supported for 8 years in 2011. We have had a lot of changes and a lot of redevelopment and a lot of displacement. District 2 is the same. District 5 has seen some changes, not as much as others. District 4, we redrew the lines. So now that the lines have been redrawn, we don't have that segment. So as an at-large member, I am hitting all 7 of these districts, and I am looking at the differences as far as what sidewalks, what amenities, what public transportation, whether it's light rail, whether it's buses that are happening, how are we connecting the city? So I'm not going to pick one district. I'm always going to hold District 3 down because that's my district. And now part of 2 is part of District 3, so I'm always going to be over there a lot more often than the other areas, but I'm not going to pick one because as an at-large member, a number of my residents that used to live in District 3 around the corner from me are now in 2, are now in 1, are now in 5, so I'm following them and their needs, not the district area.
So I want to make a distinction. You mentioned district representatives. Well, regardless of whether you sit in a district seat on this council or you sit in an at-large seat, it still takes 6 votes to get things done. So the approach is not necessarily different being an at-large rep versus a district rep. The people who vote you in are different, but frankly, regardless of where you are in this city, you're impacted by our policies, and our policies should be robust enough that they can be implemented anywhere in the city and we get the result that we're looking for, right? So policies should not be place specific, they should be characteristic specific, and any places that fall within those characteristics should get equal and equitable treatment. And that is the approach that I've used as a district rep, and also what I intend to use as an at-large member, because our city, you can follow the data. If you take that approach, we know that we still very much have a crescent and a wedge. So regardless of where the district lines are drawn, we've got to meet the people where they are. And I think that takes a broader, holistic approach. I think when we think about our region and how it's growing, and the very real idea that a lot of the Black people that you mentioned before no longer live within our city limits because they've had to move further out, right? We've got to think about how to move folks. We got to think about how to provide affordable housing next to job centers that are not all downtown or uptown. So we've got to think broader than the individual districts, because people don't live, work, and play necessarily in one district. It's across the city lines and even across our regional and our county lines. And so that's the approach that I intend to take as an at-large member.
Sorry, these chairs are hard to move. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I have to agree with Councilwoman Mayfield, because picking a district is like picking a favorite child. It's kind of impossible, especially for me, because I live in technically several different districts. I come from a family that my parents are divorced, so I live in different communities across the Charlotte. So most of the time when I'm at school, I'm up in the university area. That's also where when we first moved to Charlotte, I spent the first 10 years of my life or so. And then I spent time between 2 other districts where my parents live. So I had the ability to experience kind of a wide variety of needs of the different communities. And so that's what representing at large is all about. So it's hard to pick, a single place and say, I'm really passionate about helping this district or that district. There are definitely districts that are underserved compared to others, so it's definitely important to make sure we know where the investment is going and take care of people who need it most. But it is difficult to pick a district and say, that's what I'm really going to focus my energy on.
And I know this is not a debate, however, I wanted to say District 2, simply because if we don't have equity across the board, we're not gonna get too far. Everything and everyone in this city will still have an unbalance. It's about equality, and that is what I'm looking for. Until we all have the same amenities, it's gonna always be a problem. So yes, we have to pay attention to some areas a little bit more than others until we have that equity.
Excuse me, good morning. It's so interesting when I hear people talk about data, research, things of that nature. As a researcher, I find it very interesting that when we talk about displacement, and it's real, and my thing is that we constantly continue to come down to the council and talk about housing. And I know you both, two that's in now, I know you both familiar with Lake Arbor when I came down in your face over and over again. And now we're still coming down, Action North Carolina, housing justice, we're talking about housing. You have Band-Aid programs where you're saying you got housing money, but a lot of times it's hard to find that money for the people that need it. So please share with me, and please don't use that word affordable because it's not real. So we need to change that word. So the thing about it is, for the ones that's in now, please share with me how you going to change it, want to change it, and if you have changed it, how has it affected people that might need it? And for the ones who want to come in, same thing, sort of. Thank you.
So, a few things. First, I want to get on this affordable component. When we talk affordable, and this is for the benefit of folks in the room, I know you already know this. When we talk affordable, it's based on our area median income, right? And that's an average across our county. So there are certain places like where I live where the median income for the corridor is like $25,000 to $30,000. Well, that's certainly very different than what the AMI is across the city for a family of four, and somewhere around $75,000 to $80,000. So when we talk about affordable housing, it is absolutely relative. Now, it's tiered, of course, but your point is taken. When we think about housing programs, and I'll speak as the housing chair at the current moment, and I know that there'll be some perspective. I know that there'll be some perspective provided by Councilmember Mayfield, as she said in this chair before me. But what we're doing right now, specific to displacement, one of the things that I championed as part of the 2040 conversation, if you remember, it was extremely contentious because when we talk about equitable development, part of what's in that policy, if it's not implemented thoughtfully, can absolutely accelerate displacement in the areas that are most vulnerable to it. And because of that, one of the things that I fought for was our NEST commission, who's bringing back their recommendations next month. We know that we need to upfit a lot of our housing policies, and that's part of the work that they're working on. Down payment assistance, for example. The current cap is about $17,000. Well, we're competing in a non-cash market, so that's dust, right? Those are one of the things that we're looking at, not only in terms of what is the higher limit that we can provide as public funds, but how do we partner with private institutions to be able to create different kinds of products so that people can compete. So that's one of the things that is going on. Another component is how do we beef up the work that was started by council members like my predecessor on the TLC for CLT, because when we look at what the requirements are from an income and age standpoint, that cuts a lot of people out. So how, and some of it is related to legislative changes that we also have to advocate for, because there are some things that we cannot do because it's illegal.
I agree. So in 2017, Dr. Penn, I think you might have remembered that I challenged that whole idea of affordable housing because your level of affordability is not my level of affordability. And I started really talking about diverse price point housing. People said it was too long. I said we could say permission coffee, we could say diverse price point housing, because that's a very different conversation. So that, and I'm not a fan of the idea of 15 for all. That is not the wage to live in Charlotte. And we're having to use antiquated numbers from the federal government of what is considered AMI. The area median income in Charlotte is very different than that in Iredell or Buncombe County. But we're having to play within a system that was legislatively and systematically created to ensure that poor people stay poor. And that is the system we're playing in. So we thought we were very bold, and we were very bold when we went from 25 to 50 million in the Housing Trust Fund. We've already started conversations, and I think I've already thrown a suggestion in the room in recent council meetings, and when we were talking about the budget, we need to go ahead and come to you all for 100 million. But even at that, that's only if we're gonna be very specific in how that funding goes. For me personally, more of that funding needs to go to home ownership, not to multifamily apartments. I have a challenge with the idea of NOAA, naturally occurring affordable housing, is old apartment complexes that you let get run down, where you were probably a slumlord that we come in and put tax dollars in to build up, that you still get to make money off of. There's a different conversation in there. We need the community to step up and hold us accountable, but I do believe that there are some changes that we can make legislatively, and I do believe that you have a council body that will recognize and support us moving forward in a very different way than we have previously.
Okay, we'd like to ask you to please respect our timekeeper, and your answers should be 2 minutes, because we have a lot of questions.
We've been doing it.
You've been doing it 2 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that was,
We're watching this now.
okay, okay. We might, it seems like it's more than 2 minutes. Wow. Okay. I know she keeps up with it, but
Yes, ma'am.
anyway, just as a reminder.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You need to mention that we don't allow anyone to follow up on comments. I think it's not a debate, but we don't do that. One answer per person, we don't come back with other answers.
And we got some Facebook questions.
Yeah, we have a question from one of our YouTube viewers. Now, I will preface that it isn't really a city council question. However, I will allow you all to respond. This is from Tom E. Bowers. I've heard CMS state goals and timetables and guardrails, but rarely tell the public the action steps to achieve these goals. Will you admit steps CMS will take to achieve goals? Yeah, but I had to read it, but it was on, but now we have.
But there is a way. If you will give them my email, I will give them the information to contact someone regarding the garden.
Wait a minute, you said it on the mic, so you can hear.
I mean, it's not appropriate for this forum.
But if you, sir, I'll give you my CMS email, and we will give you the person that you can contact to get the answer to that question. We were just in a meeting yesterday with parents, and that was a question that was posed. Very valid question, but not appropriate for this forum. Thank you.
All right, let's go.
I'm so glad I live in Charlotte, Tennessee. I'm so glad I live in Charlotte, Tennessee. Singing glory, hallelujah. Charlotte, Tennessee. When I go around the country and around the world and I talk about Charlotte, I'm bragging on the city. When you brag on Charlotte, what do you focus on? What is it about Charlotte that makes Charlotte a special place?
Okay. So, I got 2 minutes. I'm gonna go quick. I'm a North Carolina native. I was born in Fort Bragg, proud Army brat. I went to school at the University of Florida. I knew before I left there I wanted to move to Charlotte. The Lord just laid it on my heart. I kid you not. When I got here, it was obvious why. What I brag about, especially when I work out of Atlanta, when I go to work and I tell these people I'll never move to Atlanta, it's because Charlotte has all the things Atlanta has and none of the things that it doesn't. I kid you a little bit, but I can appreciate Charlotte for several reasons. Its location, its people, its amenities. It's a great place to live and grow and come into your own. But the thing that really struck me about Charlotte, and as I got more and more involved, is that it's accessible. If you want to bring your gifts and your talents to the table, by and large, you can find a place to do that. I really believe that Charlotte is still a city that is run by the people when we choose to get together. And I believe in that collective power, and that's part of what I love about Charlotte. Not only that, but also the diversity of the neighborhoods. I appreciate that I can go ride horses in the morning, and then in the afternoon I can be uptown trying to dance. But that's my spiel.
So I agree with everything that Councilwoman Watlington just said. I think more than that, when my family originally moved here, they were chasing the same opportunities, and so I've lived here my entire memorable life. And Charlotte is a city that has given me everything that I have up to this point. My education, all my memories, and that's why I continue to go to college here and go to school here, because I really just love the city. I don't ever see myself moving anywhere else. I want to stay in Charlotte. I want to live in Charlotte, and I really love the community. So, short and simple answer, that's why I have an emotional attachment to the city, and I like to stay here forever.
As much as I challenge a lot that's going on, I love this city. So every opportunity that I have to travel to, last week, we had the National League of Cities Women in Municipal Government. The Women's Conference was hosted here. So you had elected officials from not only all over the state of North Carolina, but outside of North Carolina. One of those happened to be an elected official from Miami Gardens. So I grew up in Dade County. So when I grew up, there was no Miami Gardens, but she happens to represent the area that I grew up playing in. And I spent the day, and I drove her around the city. We went and had breakfast in South End. We went out to Charlotte Premium Outlets. She went to a meeting with me that was over off of Siegel, just to see the diversity of our city, the beautiful trees that we have, the fact that we still have seasons in the city, and the fact that we have an airport where if you work in New York, you can fly out in the morning, do your business, and be back home in the evening to spend time and break bread with your family. Or you can work during the week and easily get back home. And we have a train system that will get you from here to Raleigh to DC to multiple places. Charlotte, as we continue to grow and more transplants move in, is diversifying our city. But if I had a choice to live anywhere else, first of all, my wife ain't moving because she bought them sticks and tallies here. They're not going nowhere. So it's not an option, but I wouldn't want to leave because this is a beautiful city and we can just make it more accessible.
Born and raised right here in Charlotte. This is all that I know. And so like I said, I've seen it build up and I've seen it tear down. But it is a beautiful city, but it is also a tale of two cities. And my goal is to make sure that we have an equal opportunity across the board. I'm fortunate. I've had a small business for almost 30 years, so I'm okay. But again, we have opportunities to make sure that we have equity. That's what I'm saying. Being born and raised here, like I said, I love this city, and I want to represent this city with compassion and empathy, things that we used to have that we may no longer have anymore. So Charlotte is my home. I'm not going anywhere, and you're going to continuously see me, because until we have an equal opportunity, my options are just kind of making sure that y'all are good.
First of all, thank you Tuesday morning breakfast. I apologize for being late. I was trying to be a good son-in-law and take my mother-in-law to the airport. So what's the question?
No. You should say no. I told him.
To introduce myself? I got 1 minute or 5
1 minute. Like 1 minute.
2 minutes to introduce myself. Tuesday morning breakfast, thank you. I'm James Smudger Mitchell, fortunate enough to be on the Charlotte City Council. I'm asking for your support once again for 2 more years on Charlotte City Council at large. I'm a Charlotte native, but like Charlene, and more important to me is being part of a city that's the 14th largest city, and how do we grow that all our citizens can have a good quality of life. I've been passionate about workforce development. I've been passionate about small business, affordable housing,
and now public safety. Now I think we need to turn our attention more to transportation. How are you going to move 1 million people the next 2 years in the Queen City, and how can we do it effectively and efficiently? How can we improve our bus route? Excuse me. So thank you for allowing me to be here. I look forward to the rest of the questions. I apologize for my colleagues. So we need to do a speed date. All the questions I missed, if y'all will give me 30 seconds, I would like to answer those. So thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. No.
Turn it on. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I asked this question, I believe, last week during the mayoral debate, and Councilmember Watson touched on it a little earlier during one of her answers. But what ideas and actually what programs might there be coming into fruition centered around minority and women business owned participation and to enhance that particular category from a city standpoint?
Yes, so you're lucky because there's a few of us that are sitting on here that are very happy to answer this question. One of the things that was that I had an opportunity to partner actually with Councilmember Mitchell on when I first got on council was to add a rider to the workforce development or to all of the economic development contracts at the city. We're working to get it added, just like you would your MWSBE participation. You know how you have to fill out who on your team is going to be in BE. We want the same thing from a workforce development standpoint. So RJ Leeper had actually piloted some work with CMS in regards to that, and we brought it forward to Economic Development Committee and have been pushing to get that as a formalized policy within our scope now going forward. So that's one thing that's extremely important is we've got to really be thoughtful about how we spend our money. And so when we think about MWSBE participation, it's not, I'm a small business owner as well. And one of the things that is important to me as a small business owner is that when I go to the table for government contracts as a minority or as a woman business owner, I want to make sure that my company has an opportunity to grow. I don't want to just be your 10% and I don't get to be exposed to anything new from a project management standpoint, from even engaging with the state construction office standpoint. I want to make sure that it is a valuable experience for both of us and not just a check mark. And that's one thing that from a policy standpoint at the city, we can do by changing how we award our procurement contracts. So that's one that I will leave with you. The other thing is one thing that we tend to struggle with. So I'm an engineer. There are not a lot of us when it comes to the mechanical engineers that are minorities or women, right? We need capacity building resources. And so we know how to help businesses that have been generating a certain amount of revenue over the last couple of years. But how do you take a widget maker who's got capacity to be a widget maker business owner to that next level? And I think that that's the piece that's missing is how does the city bridge the gap for people who wouldn't otherwise get funding because they haven't yet been in business for long enough time for a traditional lender?
Only thing I would add, Gary, to that question and follow up to Ms. Wallington is they are presenting a capital funding program, just came out to the ED committee on August 7th. So the first time when you talk to small business, one thing they struggle with, access to capital. And we need to do it in the form of a grant, not a loan. We cannot incur debt. When you start in the business 0 to 5 years, the worst thing you need is having more debt. Here's what we have to do too, and I give Councilor Mayfield, because she always my ride or die, when we pull the contracts, when they say we can't find them. We need to remove that notion that black businesses are not out there in the state of Charlotte. We need to make sure we get them certified. More importantly, we have to be the advocate. We just approved 2 sisters just bought some property in the university area, and one is opening up her own business, I think on the West Boulevard. So any small business folks out there, please know you got strong advocates on city council that want to make sure you be successful. Last thing I would say, our CBI program, we need to put it on steroids. Right now, it's just a program you get certified. We need to monitor how many of our CBI firms are getting contracts, how many are getting opportunities. And if Councilor Mayfield did a review almost 3 years ago, and we found out that only maybe 12% of the certified 1,400 firms are getting a city contract. We have to improve and do a better job.
Along with adding to my colleagues, we need to do a better job partnering with the community. So last night I had the opportunity to attend Dr. Shantae's presentation. So the Equilibrium Impact Ventures, they awarded $75,000 to 2 different local businesses. They awarded it to the business owners, not to the business. So they were able to move forward. We just had, Beyonce just came to town. Okay, well, I want us to acknowledge across the nation 2 businesses here in Charlotte, one of them being Your Girl Inc. Many of you know Rashawn Peak and the work that she's done. She received that $10,000 grant. We shouldn't have to have people from outside coming in and investing in our community. But we do know there's a reality that it is a who you know. We have to have some real conversations through the city manager. Because one of the challenges is, as a council member, we cannot keep going directly to staff because that's not the form of government we have. We have a council manager form of government. We need to hold the city manager responsible for what your departments are doing. And if we keep having set-asides and exemptions, and that's coming out of procurement, and we are seeing a constant pattern for why certain businesses are not getting access, then it's our responsibility to not keep signing off and giving a 10, 12, 15% increase plus a deferred payment to give the manager the idea that everything you're doing is great, so we're just going to keep increasing your pay without having very clear expectations of how is your department truly utilizing an equity lens and how are we moving forward to get beyond 2, 3, 4, 5%. We should be looking at 12 to 20%, and that should be mandated.
Well, I mean, I wanted to hear from the candidates because I want to know what ideas you might have to bring to the table to do the same thing to enhance this utilization, or what things you would look to implement as well coming to council as a member.
Okay, so me, I'm still a candidate. I have not had the privy to be on council. So I'm not into all of the policies and legislation. However, like I say, I stand with community on my chest. I'm a Queen City by heart. And so when I tell you, community needs to be at the table, I am community, and this is what we're in need of. First day, second day, first 100 days, this is what I need to do. Councilwoman LaWanna Mayfield says a lot of great things. I would love to be able to work with her and help her push and pass and be able to implement a lot of things that she was saying. My goal is to make sure we have accountability. That's it. Number 1, transparency. Number 2,
Okay.
Did you write that down?
Yeah, I'll just give a quick answer real quick. So I'm going to school for business. I'm a finance major, and I believe that there's a common theme in Charlotte, which is the entry barrier for a lot of things is really high. You know, when we talk about housing, entry barrier is high. We talk about starting a business, entry barrier is high. There's a lot of high barriers. We need to help bring those down. And I really like what Councilman Mitchell was saying about really putting certain programs on steroid to get grants out to people who want to start businesses. So I think that needs to be expanded for sure, so that when people who want to go out and start their own businesses, we shouldn't be giving them loans. Loans are a lot of times predatory, and if you want to get one, it's very difficult to get one in certain cases. So I believe that we definitely need to give out a lot more grants to members of the community.
One second.
Okay. Excuse me, Mayor, just 1 second. What we're asking you all to do now is 30 seconds for the question and 1 minute for the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
31. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully mine will be 30-30. It's very simple. How do you, as elected officials, on council or hopeful to be on council, how do you create the environment of accountability so that we as residents know that this is an environment of accountability, and I know that I can take these steps and they will be held accountable for everybody?
Let me start it off. And then I think from my standpoint, it's always been hosting town hall meetings. I think when we go out in the community and we attend neighborhood meetings, we attend function, it's best then to hear what you expect from us and make sure we can meet your expectation. Then it's the old adage of calling people on the cell phone and texting us an email. But more important, I think what you want from us, results. It's one thing to hear about a problem, but you don't need us to complain about the same problem. You asking us, how do we fix the pothole? How do we take care of public safety? How do we provide sidewalk? So engagement is very important, but the next phase is making sure you hold us accountable to get the results that we need for our community.
So I think that I should just wear an A on my chest, because that's what it's all about, accountability and transparency. I can't say it enough. Being in our community, seeing the like I said, the build up and the tear down, it's important that we as a community stand together, make sure that we're holding each other accountable and being accessible to all of the information that is out there in a timely manner. Not behind the doors, but making sure that we all are on the same page. That is what it's all about, our character, all of these words. This is what we need. I have to always put it in front of you, because if we don't have measurables to hold people accountable, then it's going to be insanity, and that's doing the same thing over and over and over again. So we need to have me on that council, because I will have that A on my chest.
My tagline for a while now has been honesty, integrity, and transparency. To the best of our ability, I think the biggest answer to your question is we got to show up. And we continuously show up, not just during election season, not just right before election season. It's throughout the community that you show up. Even, everyone know I ran in 2019, I came in 5th, there's only 4 slots, I did not win. I went back to serving the community. I went back to volunteering, I went back to doing the work that I was doing prior. A number of residents in the community asked me to really consider running again. Thankfully, a lot of you came out and you voted and you gave me this opportunity to serve you on this role, but I'm still attending neighborhood meetings. I'm still attending community events. I still hosted, and even in these 10 months, 2 different town halls in different parts of the city. The biggest challenge is there's almost 1 million of you and there's 11 of us. There's no way for us to really know where you all are at.
Thank you. When I think about how to set an environment of accountability, I think about 2 things that my very first boss taught me. The first one was put your eyes on the data. Don't ever let somebody tell you that something is one way when it's really another, simply because you didn't put your eyes on the data. That means specific, measurable goals. We've got to be able to do that. Yes, we absolutely have to engage with you continually. But even more than that, I'll say there's one thing that I have seen in this city that I think is a differentiator when it comes to accountability. All of us know what the issues are. It's courage. It's courage to raise your hand and say, no, we're not going to do this. It's courage to be the unpopular opinion if it is the right position within the room when you're seated with power. And I think that those are the things that make the difference when it comes to accountability. We're not unaware. It's a question of how much are we willing to put on the table, how much are we willing to put at stake by telling the truth and doing something about it.
So first of all, I want to start by saying I'm against all closed meetings by City Council. At the Black Political Caucus debate just a little bit ago, about a week ago, I talked about kind of what was going on with the stadium project behind closed doors, and I think that really harms our credibility when we talk about accountability and being open and transparent with voters and folks. So I'm against all closed meetings, and it's not like we're talking about top secret information. They are issues that affect the community, and voters deserve to know what's going on. So not only that, but interacting with the community is very important as well. So in doing a combination of that, I think we can really have pretty good transparency.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Dr. Watley. Thanks. Good to see you again. Good to see you too. Thank you all for being here. We've talked a bit about economic mobility. We all know about the Chetty study, yes, which made us notorious, yes, in Charlotte. Right. So I would like to hear from you all what you think the main, well, first of all, we've talked about it a lot. So has there been something happening, and what is that and how can we improve going forward?
All right, can y'all, so I'm very excited about your question. So let me thank my colleagues for raising their hand during January 31st to make sure workforce development was our top priority for the city council. Secondly, we just hired Danielle Frazier.
Yes.
You know Danielle Frazier works for Charlotte Works. Danielle now is heading up our workforce development program, reporting directly to Marcus Jones. It is our goal to stop embracing 50 out of 50. It is our goal to say Charlotte's going to move forward. So if you're born and partner in our city of Charlotte, we're not going to send you through training to get a certificate. We're going to send you through training to get a job. When we look at the jobs that are in the future, there are healthcare, there are construction, and so we need to prepare those who say, I don't want to go to a four-year school, but we can prepare you to still to be a productive citizen in our community. And so we're excited about Danielle starting with us. I hope, and I'm going to say it, this is my vision, we will have a workforce development committee with the city of Charlotte. And so we will make sure that we address it. Oh, I'm sorry. So, thank you.
I'll just say that I cannot wait to get on the council because all of these great ideas need to be implemented. So with me, again, I'm not privy to everything that happens on the council, but believe me, once I'm on there, I am going to make sure that all of these things are being taken care of. That's the main thing. I'm excited to hear it. Workforce development, just go to my website. If you just go to my website and read, that's what I'm about, making sure we have jobs. Not just jobs, but livable jobs, livable wages for these individuals in our city. So I'm excited. I'm just looking forward to all the new things that this council is going to be doing.
What's the website?
My website is www.charlenehenderson.com. Everything is my name.
All of the information that the city council has approved is public record. Please go to www.charlottenc.gov. The real conversation comes in how we implement, because you hear a lot of times unintended consequences. I'm not a fan of that language for the simple fact that if you're truly utilizing an equity lens, then you have someone, that table is diverse enough to make sure that someone's asking the question of the what if, because we don't have unintended consequences. I love the fact that my colleague loves numbers. I am not necessarily a fan because numbers don't lie, but they can be manipulated. Because data help get us where we are as far as being Black, brown, Asian, Indian, Native American. Data gave the justification for a lot of the things that we're in today. So when we look at workforce and look at opportunities, we need to be specifically tracking, of which we've already asked for in this term. We're looking for the tracking of the people.
So to add, everything that has been said by my current colleagues so far is absolutely true, and I'm very excited to support and push workforce development. There's a couple of other things that I wanted to address. We're very good at raising money in Charlotte. We're not always great at spending it. And to me, there is a piece that I'm really looking forward to Danielle bringing is that grassroots, that guerrilla marketing aspect. How do we get the people who we know and can see into the programs that we know exist? They talk about NC Works being the best kept secret. That should never be the case. So how do we get out of the ivory tower and into the communities because the resources are there? The other thing that I'll leave with you is we know that Black neighborhoods in which there are an abundance of male role models and quality neighborhood schools experience higher mobility. Only 5% of those exist in the U.S. So male mentorship specifically for Black men at younger ages is something that we've got to continue to invest in a real way, because that's the other component. By the time you get to high school, for a lot of folks, it's too late.
Workforce development is really important because not everybody decides to go to college. And I want to add one other thing as a finance student, which is, I heard some other folks mention, a lot of times people end up selling their homes because, they receive it and they're like, well, I'm not sure what to do. I want to sell it and make a profit. And then they get turned upside down from that. A huge problem we have is about financial literacy. As a student in CMS, I always heard about how they were trying to bring in financial literacy programs to help people learn about personal finances and making sure that they can accumulate wealth. I think that we currently have a lack of that, particularly in CMS, but it would be really cool if we could have a citywide project where we can help educate people about personal finances and making personal finance decisions. I think it would be really beneficial for a lot of people.
Okay, I just want to circle back to Tommy's question when he was talking about the neighborhoods and how they're turning over, and I think you all touched on it, but I just had something I wanted to say about that, and that is something that I'm doing in my neighborhood, because I don't think that city council can do anything about people selling their houses. That's a community problem. And one of the things that I'm doing in my neighborhood, and I know that Carlenia's husband is the chair of his neighborhood, and I'm the chair of my neighborhood, and this is one thing that we are both doing, and that's we're having crucial conversations with our people. We've had 2 long-term members of ours to die, and I've had those conversations. Okay, so I was going to ask a question.
You gave us the rules. So you gonna ask that for me?
Y'all know what's in. Announce it at the end, Mary. Announce that. I got to go. I got to go.
Okay, I have a question from can you hear me now? Oh, wow. This is an internet question, and this is to LaWanda.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned listening to the community. With that in mind, why did you vote against the Hidden Valley Citizens' desire to have the city purchase the economic motel in their neighborhood for demolition?
Thank you for that question online, because I gave a full detailed explanation the night of the meeting, because I don't believe that we need to pay a slumlord $4.2 million, because this is what could have happened. Just as it happened off of Wilkerson Boulevard, where we had Airport Inn with prostitution and a whole lot of things. When I was the district rep over there, I asked the question, what was the police presence? Did we have a police tower? Did we have a concerted effort around those hotels before we come to the community and say, we're going to pay over $4 million tax dollars to a slumlord and not put any restrictions of you cannot purchase any other hotel, motel, or properties within our city, that you have to do any specific contributions, and the mayor identified funding to clear the land for us to create a RFP to go out to possibly have someone present for an affordable housing project, which we know we don't like the word affordable, because $400,000 is affordable for somebody. But the community can probably afford 138 to maybe 200. So that is why I voted against that, and I would stand by that all day.
Thank you. Okay, next. We did get some information from Dimple. She did have some child care issues this morning. That's why she's not here, so I just wanted to let you all know that. Okay, Carlene.
I was gonna say good morning, good afternoon, I don't know which. But
morning.
Good morning. First, I want to say thank you to those who are at council who are fighting for those who can't necessarily have the might to fight for themselves, so thank you. I know you guys have a commitment to workforce development. I want you to send Danielle to West Charlotte. I want you to find a storefront and some way of communicating and marketing and touching the people who are alongside Batesford Road and say, come here. You have one on West Boulevard, you have one other places. Send her to West Charlotte.
Yes, sir.
But my question is, what is happening with Excelsior? I am sick and tired of passing by there, and it's nothing but grass. And all of y'all are at large. We might not have the district rep, but please tell me what is happening with West Charlotte.
Excelsior.
I tell you what's happening with West Charlotte.
Excelsior.
Excelsior.
Yes,
Thank you.
Wow. 1 minute, right? So let me go high level. So we trying to find a parking solution that makes sure that Excelsior development can occur. And the development is 27 hotel rooms, a new museum, and bring back the historic Excelsior Club. It has been a challenge to find the land. Our last meeting was at the Beatty'sford Road Library, and since then I've talked to the Metro Police Station about some of the land they have behind. We got a presentation from staff that the cost, if we buy the property, $1.5 million. I would say when you look at other corridors and look what Excelsior means to Beatty'sford Road, I can support a 1.5 infrastructure investment to make sure that project take place. We heard you loud and clear. Ken Coons was at that meeting in the library, and Ken said, can y'all count to 6? Ken, we trying to get to 6.
His answer. Good morning. I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to be here. This is my first time, and I thank Charlene for inviting me because it has been very informative. And I think sitting in the seat that I'm in, one of the things I think that is really important is that we recognize that knowledge is power. And we also understand that the power should really be in the hands of people, the community. But we realize that that's not the case. So my question for you is, what are you doing to make information more accessible to the community so that they can realize the power that they have?
Since she's your support.
Well, I mean, so accessibility. My goal is to make sure, again, that we get the information out. That is my whole thing. I don't run just to be running, just to be having a seat. I run because we're still dealing with some serious issues and problems. Accessibility is key. Transparency is key. So I want to make sure that I hold people accountable for what they said they were going to do, what they are doing, and just being a part of the solution. That's just it. I mean, it's simple, it's easy. The smallest makes the hugest impact. So for me, I'm on this council. Once I'm on this council, I'm going to make sure all those things are done, and then you're going to hold me accountable for that. Call me, and I'll make sure I get them in check.
So if I'm understanding your question, you're asking how are we going to make sure that we are accessible and there's transparency with the community. Here's the first thing that I need, and for those that are online, we need you to show up. So I can have a quarterly town hall. I can move it all over the city. Again, I've had 2 just in these 10 months. Who shows up is who receives the information. Email us. Talk to us when we're out. Invite us to your church. Invite us to your neighborhood meeting. Invite us to your community meeting, because there is no way for us to know everything that is going on. Even as a district rep, for 8 years, there were still meetings that I missed. Because if 5 groups are having a meeting at the same night, it was a great night if I made it to 3 or 4 of them. And that was me ripping and running to try to be there. But we all need the community to help us be there for you. People get level here for frustration. Before you get there, reach out to your elected officials.
A couple of quick things. Number one, if you're not already signed up for the neighborhood organization contact list, start there. Every day you will get information from all over the city and the county really, so definitely do that. Number 2, for myself, I tried to have a quarterly town hall, and I've been doing that since I've been on council. It's open not just to District 3 residents, but to anybody. Several of them have been live streamed, and you can still access them at winwithwatlington.com or on charlottesc.gov. And then finally, I keep a very active social media, and I try to put out emails every week about critical topics that are going on, and so you can always follow me there at Watlington, the number 4, CLT. Again, that's Watlington, the number 4, CLT. But absolutely, always, if you have a question, if you don't have a question, you just want to know what's going on, shoot us an email. We will get that information to you. But the last thing I will say, regardless if you never hear from a city council rep, go to your neighborhood meetings. If you don't have a neighborhood meeting, go to your coalition meeting from your neighborhoods.
It's tough to add anything onto that. It's tough to go last, but that was a great answer. I'm not on council yet, but one thing I do plan to do is issue a monthly newsletter to kind of push information out to you and say, here's what I've been working on in the last month. Here's what I've really put my focus into recently, and pushing that out to a list of subscribers. Additionally, like some of the other members have said, coming up and showing up to meetings and voicing your concerns and opinions is really important. So, combination of that, hopefully we can give you some pretty good information.
Okay, we have 5 more questions.
Let me answer. And so I'll be very quick. 704-617-0399. 704-617-0399. As we all say, call us, because we should be working for you. And here's a prime example. We got a call of a landfill being built beside a community in Coolwood, a landfill. And we left, my colleague and I, Councilman Mayfield, we left a city council zoning meeting to go to a neighborhood meeting where over 200 residents were complaining about landfill. 6 months forward, this council, Washington, Mayfield, and Mitchell, we have changed the ordinance. Landfill could not be built by your house anymore. So you have the power to make sure we work for you.
Okay. That's it.
I'm sorry, that's my sales.
We have 5, Ken, Weston, Tommy, visitor, first time visitor, and we have 1 online. We'd like to get to all of them. 31, 30 seconds. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the question online is from Yvette Townsend Ingram. JCSU has an entrepreneur hub with several small businesses. Can you work with us to get these student businesses certified?
Yes, and how we could do that, that's the good point, having Danielle on board as well as Stephen Coker. Yvette, call me at 704-617-0399. We get JC students involved.
Okay.
Yes.
Across the board? All right, my question is about creativity. So I am a NOAA owner. However, again, and I keep my property way lower than market rate than my wife would like. But I would like to do way more to the property. However, again, so just wanted to know what creatively City Council could do, especially when we see developers being incentivized to bring in what we're already providing. Also, the second half of that question about creativity, I'm also into programming, large-scale programming. I throw festivals. Me and Councilman Mitchell, we caught a hiccup because we could not get a street closure from the shortage of police. What about the people who don't want to kick the door down for the cartel, but they can do those jobs? Is there a gray area to maybe have festival patrol or things? Oh.
Everybody does not have to answer that question.
Okay. A couple of things. We do have a program that we started. It was based on some of the cure violence work and some of the violence interruption work, where we're trying to transition non-emergency policing activities to citizens. That wasn't on the list, but I'm certain that we can consider that. I will say that we have reached a hiccup, to use your term, as it relates to what's allowable by the state legislature in terms of that. But that is a place that I see that could be incorporated into that. And then your other question, what was it?
About, I provide NOAA. I see developers being incentivized, but
Housing
we're not.
Trust Fund dollars. So the way that the dollars are set up is what staff goes by when they provide their recommendations of who we should invest in, et cetera, et cetera. However, there's been several projects that I've been able to work with, I believe Councilmember Mayfield as well, with the Westside Community Land Trust that does work on a smaller scale, but we've been able to get them dollars. So bring us your proposal. We can take a look at it. We've got funding and flexibility in that space. So let us know.
30 seconds, Ken.
Especially you know I love you, but I gotta just throw this at you, boy. You know you like closed meetings. That's an inside joke. On the MBE program, I've been around 40 plus years in that arena to some level or other. And it's amazing now how black minorities, that was the original focus, was black. But now you got everybody in there from national orientation to darn near religion and sexual orientation. And then you get to black folk, which basically has compressed the black presence in MBE funding.
You need to ask your question.
That's what the next coming up. Okay, so how do you propose addressing the depression of or suppression of black minority input in getting these contracts? Because we're now less than we initially started out.
Just give us some short answers, please, if everybody wants to answer.
Short answer, we need the Black business owners to hold us accountable. We need you to show up. Because remember, council does not get the information until it's brought forward to us. And again, council manager form of government. The city manager runs staff. You do not want your council getting into the day-to-day of speaking directly with Stephen Coker, even though we do it, and I have done it 25 times already this year, to specifically say, what are you doing for this Black business? We need to hear from you all, and any RFP that goes out, apply for it.
That's right.
And then if you don't get it, or if there's challenges in the language, then you give us something to fight with.
Yeah.
But if you don't even apply for it, then the first thing staff can say is, well, we don't even have an application on file. So the first thing is, start applying, make sure you're certified with the city, make sure you're certified as a DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, with the state, and give us what we need in order to stand up and fight for you.
I will also add that the disparity study that has to be done to prove that there's a disparity so that we can have these inclusivity programs in place, it does look specifically at the subsections under MWSBE. That's how we know whether it's W's that are getting the bulk of that dollar, whether it's small businesses that are not minority that are getting the bulk of that dollar. So the power is in the data. The question is, how often are we looking at that data, and do our metrics match up? So I'm very excited about this workforce development piece and Danielle's arrival. She is not the holy risen savior, but so I hope that we're not putting too much pressure on her, but I think it speaks to our commitment and my expectation that I've shared directly with the city manager, that we are looking at what we're doing on a consistent basis and matching the intent to the output.
Ken, small business got to call us when they want us to do something for them. The young lady who opened up the new business off in the university, she called all of us. She sent us an email, and we said, we got your back. Here's the other thing, too, Ken, I would say. Let us engage with you and show you the right way. I think it's a lot of frustration. Black-owned business don't know who to call and what the process. Call us up front, and we can help you navigate so you won't get so frustrated. And last but not least, we tied a 10%. When we see contract come to us at 10%, we automatically pull them. Because that tells me, staff, you didn't do enough to break down projects to get more participation.
Question is about NIMBY. What are you going to do to battle NIMBY? As I recall, Valentine, there was supposed to be more affordable housing, but then it's like, ooh, I don't want more people. South Park, it's supposed to be more affordable housing. Ooh, I don't want more people. And I see that in the rail corridors too. What are you going to do to battle NIMBY?
Wow. Ooh. Ooh, wow. That's a tough one.
Not in my backyard, isn't that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, not in my backyard. So let's talk about affordable housing, because that's a tough one. And everyone says affordable housing is great until there's a blue Z right beside their neighborhood. Then they say, we want the other side of town. So if the city of Charlotte is committed to address affordable housing, we all need to embrace it and stop all these negative comments around affordable housing. Those people, I don't want crime, my property value is coming down. That's all negativity that we put toward affordable housing. If we really want one Charlotte, we got to embrace affordable housing. And I think it's up to each and every individual in this room to talk about the positives of affordable housing.
It's 10 o'clock. You want
Oh,
to keep
that's
going?
okay.
You can take a comment or two. Speak on.
Okay, I'll just say this. He who owns the land owns the power.
Yes.
So we, as the city, we've got to figure out how do we acquire land in these areas, because it's really economics, right? I don't really care how you feel about me, but you won't disenfranchise me, right? So the question is, how do we acquire a lot of the properties in these areas that are more expensive, and then how do we leverage the private dollar to build hopefully home ownership opportunities at a more affordable rate? So we've got to me, think like a developer. We've got to figure out how do we interrupt the process as it stands now from a public side of things, so that we can influence what is built where without having to assuage some of the folks who are saying, oh, well, we don't want it in our backyard. Does that make sense?
And in addition to that, once we do acquire that land, we need to have a very strategic plan for the same partners that have created wealth throughout this community as developers are not the ones that get access to build yet another so-called workforce project that only has 2 or 3 units
Yes.
that the workers can afford, but yet you receive $1 million plus in government dollars. We have some smaller developers out there. I've already instituted conversations with Sean Heath, who is the head of our housing program, of some developers that can build us projects right here that's not looking at 100 plus units, and also recognizing that it would be great if our churches that sit on hundreds of acres of land, more of them came to the table, just like the unveiling we just had last week at the park, which that conversation started in 2017. COVID happened, but they still were able to move forward with a senior housing project.
Let's give them a round of applause. And we invite you to come back because we meet every Tuesday, almost every Tuesday of the year. So you all please come back to be with us when you're not sitting in the front. Yeah. So thanks again, and thanks for all of the questions. And we will see you all on next week. We like to say that Jackie's not here, but she usually handles the setup for the candidates to come in. And we also have Crispin Robinson, who's a young lady who's in attendance with us almost every Tuesday morning, that's assisting with setting this up as well. So if you have a quick announcement, I want you to send it to Steve.
You killed me.
Gary is a regular, so we're done.
Before you do announcements, I would like to say, just to point out the Tuesday Morning Forum's website. When you're talking about how do you get information, we act as a hub for everybody. Anyone that wants to send in announcements can send them in and then post it on our website. So a lot of our political candidates will be posting stuff on our website if you want to know what they're doing. So we sort of disseminate a lot of information for a lot of organizations. So check out our website and you'll find out a lot of what's going on.
Is there an email to send the information?
Yeah. The email is
Yeah.
sjohnson@tuesdayforumcharlotte.org. Johnston with a T.
Thank you. But you can just Google Tuesday morning, Tuesday morning forum, and you'll find it.
And rather quickly. Again, Gary Young, City Council District 2 representative or candidate, should I say. This Saturday, we will be having a community fun day at Charlotte Archive from 12 to 3. You know, we will have a DJ, we will have face painters, we'll have resources of information. We would love to have Ms. Frazier come out and disperse some workforce development info. And just the opportunity, and raffling off some school supply book bags for kids. But just the opportunity for that community to meet said candidate and just give District 2 a taste of what things will be like if I am elected city rep. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Okay.
At my age, I probably bring no more announcements than I do. Only a few of you might would know, and as much as you would be one of those, Laura. One of our staunch MBE leaders in this community has recently passed. His name is Ed Dolby. His funeral will be Thursday at the park, I believe at 11 o'clock. But if you have an opportunity to pass condolences along to the Dolby family.
And one more. Avive Power Fresh, the greatest festival in the world that connects people from the community to on-site resources. It's September 23rd at West Complex. Again, going out, y'all shake hands, kiss babies, you know. Because I know that's after the date for some of us. But yeah. He's still in it. Come on now.
Okay, all right. What, baby? Yeah, I had a 10 o'clock groundbreaking and I'm already late for it. Yes, ma'am. I got everything. Right here. Please have me.
How you doing?
Out there in the rain, I was still partying with you.
Yes.
Come on, appreciate you coming out.
Yeah. All right. get out of here.
Okay. Sometimes you just got to call because Councilman Mayfield, I think that council, remember that? If they council